name is Alex Volkov. I'm in 9th grade and I'm American.
My name is Sonoda. I'm in 9th grade and I'm Japanese.
Hi, my name is Anna and I'm a senior and I hold citizenship in both America and Japan.
I'm Sean, I'm a senior, and I'm half Japanese, half American.
I'm Cora, I'm a senior, and I'm American.
America is more accepting of diversity than Japan.
So I think it's different in the way you define diversity, but in terms of the number of, the population that is like diverse, I think America has a lot more of that. But in terms of maybe cultural acceptance or more social elements, I think they are different and both have a lot to work on still.
I feel that years of seclusion in Japan as a nation as a whole has provided a much more homogenous culture than what is seen in America, which is much more recently established and had a lot of much more diversity starting into as a country, and that really helped America become much more accepting of what kind of culture it is and the kind of people that comes in, while Japan is still having to work on a lot of it.
I feel like I'm a part of Japanese society.
I'm an embassy kid, so I live on the compound. So already that really separates me from Japanese society. Like, it's secluded from a main road. We're in like a walled community, but also like all the time, like in grocery stores, in like trains and stuff like that, like you go anywhere and people already are just kind of looking at you like she doesn't belong here. So
I was born in Japan. I've lived here most of my life, and I generally feel like I know the culture pretty well. I can speak the language pretty well. I know my way around the city, and so in that sense, I feel like I should feel a much deeper sense of belonging than I do. But the reality is that even I still feel like I'm perceived as a foreigner, despite my Japanese heritage and my living in Japan. I'll still hear on the train like I'll be addressed as like a foreigner, or it just does not quite feel like I am a part of the society. So,
Well, as a full Japanese, obviously I look and sound like a Japanese person, or the stereotypical, or what the general populace sounds and looks like. And I feel like Japan focuses a lot on what the person looks like and how they sound, and determine that as how part of a society you are and how much you fit into that group. And I feel like there's some errors in the way of Japanese thinking like that, but as a person who fits into that general category, I feel very much like a part of Japanese society.
In Japan, men and women are equal.
I think that there's tons of cultural phenomena that just point to this fact. I mean, workplace culture is still a persistent issue. Just even riding the train every single day. If you look what's happening inside of the cars, women are bunching together because they don't want to be touched or anything like that. There's still a lot of like cultural elements which definitely differentiate between men and women.
I think that for sure there is definitely a disparity between how women are treated and how men are treated, and just in terms of just opportunity and just everything. I feel like it is such a patriarchal society, and that it is, there's definitely not an equal treatment for men and women here.
Men and women are equal in American society.
While it's not as bad as in Japan, there's still lots of sexism in the workplace in the US, and there's still a large wage gap of 77 cents to $1. And men in the US still have a lot more accepting to do of the fact that women are just as equal.
I feel like I don't want to comment on whether it's worse or better in the United States or Japan, but I think that in the United States, they're more accepting of the avenues through which women can protest inequality and through which men can protest inequality. Like, it's a lot more accepting of legal suits for sexism and being able, like, actually going through courts to try and change laws, or actually just suing somebody for money for mistreatment or something like that. And I feel like that's a lot more accessible in the United States than it is in Japan.
I feel safe living in Japan.
So I know for a fact that in Japan, in general, crime is just much less prevalent than in the U.S. And for example, there's a huge gun issue in the U.S. which is not, which does not exist in Japan. So I do feel comfortable going around the city late at night when I wouldn't feel the same way when I'm back in the U.S. But then again, there is still a lot of issues with, particularly I think sexual assault. Like, I have been groped on trains and stuff, even as a male here. So it is something that like still needs working. But I'd say I do still feel safer in Japan than I do in the U.S.
I also am on the agree side, and I agree with all the things that Sean said. As a female, also, like, I think there's another added element, I guess, it's just not as blatantly obvious. I definitely feel safer in Japan, but I think there are more hidden things that I have to be careful about.
The education we get as an international student at an American school is better than what I would get in the United States.
When I first came here in 6th grade, from my old school, I immediately noticed that the academic curriculum was a lot easier, and we were doing things I had done at a much younger age, and I felt held back in my classes.
I think it definitely depends on what kind of school you're going to in which part of the US, but I definitely feel like in terms of being exposed to more perspectives and having a more global view of issues, I think our school has a lot more opportunities for that and meeting people from different cultures.
So I came from a school district in the US that was one of like the best school districts in the United States for education. And so I think that on a purely education basis, the United States, my education in the United States and now here are pretty much on the same level. But Anna, I'm gonna have to disagree with you. I think that here you're in such a homogenous group of people. Like, for my basketball team, every single person was from, their hometown was Tokyo, and I was the only one who was not from Tokyo. So I think it's a concentrated group of people who have all led very similar lives growing up in Tokyo with large amounts of wealth. And I think I think culturally there is more diversity, but in terms of like socioeconomic status and also knowing people, like, everybody here has known each other for forever. And so I think that is a lot different than at least my experience in the United States, where there's a lot more socioeconomic diversity.
I would like to live in Japan when I grow up.
Well, for me, I guess it's not only Japan, but like Tokyo specifically. I've kind of been born and raised here. It is the environment I'm most familiar with, and I've spent time living in the U.S. and Minneapolis and stuff. And I guess I am at heart a city boy, so this is home to me. But I do still see myself, being able to live in other urban areas in the U.S. as well, or anywhere on Earth at that.
So I've moved all over my entire life. I've never lived anywhere longer than 3 years. So I don't really have that level of comfort anywhere right now in the world. So, and I guess I wouldn't want to live in Tokyo when I grow up, because at least right now, like, I'm not comfortable here. I don't speak the language. I don't look like most other people who live here and are from here. And just my background is also really, I think, different than a lot of people who have lived here. And so I don't know where I want to live when I grow up, but I think right now I know it's not here.
I think for me, in terms, I've only lived in, like, I've basically lived in Japan my whole life. And also, I think there's so many interesting aspects of the city, and especially for what I want to do with social entrepreneurship, I think there's a lot of opportunity and market for that. So I'm just kind of excited to like enter that scene after I go to college.